It's the Galaxy S24 Ultra now after 3 months of use. And you know how we do these follow-up reviews. It's not going to be specs and stuff like that. We more paint a picture and talk about the marketplace and where the S24 Ultra falls in that. Link in the description does help the channel. This is part of the buy and try program for Samsung. You can pick one of these up through a carrier, but you can't use the carrier payment plans. You can pick one of these up, pay for it in full, or pay for it through Samsung, one of the AT&T or T-Mobile ones or something like that. Use it for 30 days. And if you don't like it, you can go ahead and return it for your money back. So that's something, if you're unsure of it, if you want to use it, if you don't know how you're going to like the titanium frame on it, if you don't know how you're going to like the flat display, you can pick it up for 30 days, play with it, and see if you like it or not. But I wanted to talk about the S24 Ultra more in terms of the price, because that to me is the thing that sticks out. You could argue whether the OnePlus devices or overseas the Xiaomi devices are better at the flagship level than the S24 Ultra. That's fine. There's the S24 Plus for that. That's the better value for most people. If you don't need an S Pen, if you don't want the best camera stuff, you don't need the extra zoom and stuff like that, the S24 Plus is there. If you didn't like the old Note design, the kind of boxy design that the S24 Ultra has adopted, that's all there, and that's all part of the conversation. But when we talk about this, I think pound for pound, it's still the best Android experience we're going to get here in the United States. But it's just that number that sticks out to me, that $1,300, and how Samsung, gets a little pain for it. They get a little gripes for it here and there, but they're really not punished for that price tag. You know, we all cry about that $100 when the $100 increase when the phone first came out, but it doesn't seem to affect sales. In fact, the S24 Ultra is one of the strongest selling phones of the year in the first quarter of this year. This phone is doing really well, despite the fact that it's not a major design enhancement over the S22 Ultra or the S23 Ultra. It's not a big departure here, but it's still doing well. And I think that really comes down to it's just upgrades in carriers. You know, $1,300 is a lot of money. $1,300 is, Samsung doesn't get the same grief that Apple got because they weren't the first through the wall as far as $1,000 smartphones are concerned, so they didn't catch all of that flack. Apple kind of led the way there. But it is still a hefty investment. I really think, and I stand by this, I think in the United States it comes down to the fact that people really just don't see that number. Nobody really sees $1,300 plus tax leaving their bank account. A lot of people do, that's fine, but there are millions upon millions, tens of millions of people who finance these through carriers. And they just look at the phone, they see that little placard in their AT&T store that tells them, $30 a month. You trade in something that's like $20 a month. They go ahead and they do that, and they were paying $20, $30 a month for the S21 Ultra or the S22 Ultra anyway. So what do they care? It's another one, it's nice, it's new, they like the Samsung experience, and they pick it up. The only reason why Samsung's able to get away with this year after year, without any huge innovation, all the rest of it. They learn from the best. They learn from Apple. They learn how, you could juice people as much as you want as long as they don't pay all at once. If people were seeing $1,400 leaving their bank account, this would be a bigger deal. People would demand more from Samsung, but they don't because they don't really see that. And that's why OnePlus and all the rest of it is tough when you're not walking into a carrier and seeing $25. Until somebody legitimately in the United States comes in, Moto's trying to do it now. They are in some carrier stores. You can see them in AT&T stores. But until somebody comes in and says, you know what, you can have this for $30 a month. Huawei was going to try before they were banned. I think they were in talks with Verizon to do that. That would have been interesting. Might have had a chance to eat Samsung's lunch, but it didn't happen. But as far as form and functionality, I really do just love this device. I'm carrying it without a case right now because it feels amazing in the hand without a case. And that is a situation of do as I say, not as I do. Put a case on this for $1,300. Okay, don't be an idiot. Uncle Steve does this because whatever. But I like carrying it around like this, and it really it's an amazing feel in the hand. Even with the boxiness and the Note design, it's a really nice feel. But put a case on it as we drop it there. See, that's why you put a case on it. See? But I like the display after they've given us the vividness back. The camera stuff, I'm not. We've gotten kind of in depth in some of these camera stuff in the last few videos, but I really can't. It's stuff to the naked eye. It looks fine to me. I know there were some problems with it. They need to update stuff early on with the S24 Ultra, and that's fine. But performance-wise, it doesn't get better than this. You're getting the RAM. You're getting the 7 years of security updates and the major upgrades of One UI, which is still, to me, the best Android software, bar none. You know, you could argue about other things. I mean, the Pixel experience has gotten better with the Pixel 8 Pro, but this is what you want. This is really the really nice one, I think, and the reliability and putting out good updates. And that was why it was such a news shocker the other day when they put out an update that had like some green line issues and stuff like that. That was surprising because they have been so reliable with their update game over the last 3 or 4 years that it was a bit of a shock that they had put out an update that had harmed devices instead of helped them. But overall, if you're somebody that upgrades through your carrier every 2 or 3 years, this is the phone that you're going to want in your pocket if you're an Android fan. You might as well get the extra camera capacity. You might as well get yourself the S Pen. And it's really only a question if you don't like the design, the boxy design on it. But otherwise, this is the apex predator here in the United States on the Android side, and they charge for that. And so we can sit there and cry about OnePlus and all the rest of it, but until they can get into those financing cycles through carriers, Samsung is going to keep doing this. And, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. They offer us a really nice experience. It's solid. It's premium. It's reliable. You know, gaming is still the best on this. I think it's fantastic. I love the titanium, how this is a big phone, but it's not. It's still heavy, but it's hefty because of the battery and all the rest of it. But it's still premium and all the rest of it. You can still carry it around your pocket despite being the large size. 7 years is a long time. And, you know, I hate the retort that I get from people. It's like, oh, well, you know, 7 years is ridiculous. You know, you don't keep your phone for 7 years. Well, first off, there are people who do. Especially if you're spending this kind of money. You're going to get top-tier performance. You're going to get the AI stuff. You're going to get updates. Why wouldn't you? Unless you're an enthusiast who wants to upgrade every other year. But the other thing with that is this. This phone, after 3 years or 4 years under the old Samsung plan, might be worth $200 less than what it's going to be worth now this time around. Because this phone will still get updates. When you go to sell this secondhand now, in year 3 or year 4, there's juice left in this thing. You could hand this to somebody and say, you know what, you're going to get 3 years of updates left on this thing. And it's still going to do well and all the rest of it. Because you could go back to the S21 Ultra, running the Snapdragon 888, which is X amount of generations back at this point, and it's still pretty snappy. Still running 120 hertz, still running all the apps that you're going to want to run, still does gaming. People sit there and complain and say, oh, why would you get a mid-range when you could just get an S21 Ultra? Well, the same argument applies here, right? You can't say that, well, why would you get an S21 Ultra or buy an S21 Ultra instead of some of the mid-range devices if the S21 Ultra didn't still have something to offer, right? So imagine that phone with still something to offer and all the power and the RAM and the display and all the rest of it with software support. Does that not up the value? Absolutely. Absolutely. So even if you're in a deal where you get this for a carrier thing and you're making your monthly payments and all the rest of it, at the end of the line, that 3 years, so you're going to have 4 years worth of support. People will be jumping up and down then saying, well, why would you buy an 815 or an 825 when you could just buy one of these? Okay, fine. Works both ways. That means that the whatever generation still has value to it. So don't say, well, these phones are going to be useless or they're not going to be able to perform in however many years. They are. They are just fine. There are phones with a Snapdragon 855 in it that are performing just fine. The 865 is still pretty darn good. So don't sit there and say, well, no one's going to keep it for 7 years and 7 years of updates don't matter. They matter. Yeah, in the AI stuff and the fact that more of this stuff could be offloaded into the cloud and more of the computing could be done on the server side, and this basically becomes a terminal, and maybe over the years, and you're 6 and 7, they make it more of a terminal. What do you care? As long as you got a fast internet connection, you got 5G, you're good to go. So there's lots to like about this phone, despite the price. So I understand that $1,300 is a big number. It would cause a lot of people to pause if that amount was coming out of their pockets right away, but it's not. Samsung knows that, and there's a lot of people okay spending this, whether you like it or not, for this phone. And I really do think that pound for pound is the best Android experience here in the United States that you can get. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.